The news spread across the silver palace like a sudden spark moving through dry grass. The guards at the outer gates shouted that a royal ship had been seen entering the lower atmosphere. The ship was old, scratched, and clearly damaged. No one expected it to fly again after the disaster that took place months earlier. The alien queen stood on the highest balcony of her palace as she watched the ship descend. She was tall, graceful, and carried an air of quiet authority. Her people respected her deeply and feared nothing more than the thought of her sorrow. Months ago, her only daughter was lost during a mission near the border of a chaotic region of space. Everyone believed the princess had perished. The queen kept a calm face for the sake of her people, but late at night she cried alone. Her daughter had been her light. Now that light seemed to flicker back to life. When the ship landed on the main platform, the metallic surface hissed beneath its thrusters. Thousands of citizens gathered behind the guards. They watched with fear, hope, and confusion as the ship door slowly opened. A wave of steam drifted out. The figures inside were still shadows. Every heart in the palace froze. The first figure to appear was the princess herself. She was thinner, her movements slower, but her posture was proud. The crowd gasped. The queen took one step back and then one step forward. Her breath shook. The daughter she believed lost forever was alive and standing. Before the queen could rush to her child, another figure stepped out from the ship. It was a human. A young man wearing worn boots and a jacket that looked too thin for the cold winds of the alien palace. He was clearly tired. His hands were slightly scraped, as if he had fixed more machines than any normal traveler could count. The guards raised their weapons. No human had ever stood on the royal landing zone. Humans were considered simple creatures by many in this galaxy. They were seen as clever, but lacking the natural abilities of most advanced species. They had no telepathy. They had no built-in energy control. Yet the human stood straight and calm. The princess raised her hand toward the guards and spoke softly. She told them that the human was a friend and no harm should come to him. Her voice was weak, but filled with certainty. The guards slowly lowered their weapons. The queen moved toward her daughter and embraced her. It was a rare public display of emotion from the ruler. The crowd watched silently. The princess leaned her head on the queen's shoulder with relief. After a long moment, she turned toward the human and asked that he step forward. The queen narrowed her eyes. She asked the human for his name. He introduced himself simply as Lion. The queen studied him in silence. She sensed no malice in him. She sensed something else, a determination stronger than many warriors she had seen. The queen invited both the princess and the human inside the palace. The hall was long and filled with glowing carvings that displayed the history of the royal line. The princess walked slowly. Leon stayed close behind in case she stumbled. Whenever the princess looked tired, he shifted slightly to support her without making it obvious. The queen noticed it. Inside the council chamber, the queen requested an explanation. The princess sat on a cushioned seat while Leon stood behind her. She spoke about the disaster that destroyed her original ship. A violent storm of energy struck without warning. Half the crew vanished. Some were injured. The princess barely survived by reaching an escape pod that crashed onto an unknown planet. That planet had been wild and filled with large creatures. The princess had no food and little technology. Her energy abilities were unstable after the crash. She would have died in the first week if she had been alone. But she was not alone. Leon had discovered her escape pod while crossing a valley. Leon had traveled the galaxy alone, working small jobs and helping travelers he met along the way. When he found the princess, he did not know she was royalty. He only saw someone who needed help. He carried her to shelter and gave her water. When unfriendly creatures approached, he defended her with nothing but a metal tool and his own courage. The queen listened without interrupting. The princess continued, explaining how Lion built a shelter from parts of the escape pod. He fixed a broken transmitter using pieces from his old communication device. He found edible plants through trial and error. He taught the princess simple survival skills she had never needed before due to her royal upbringing. Together, they spent weeks on the planet. Sometimes they argued, but always returned to cooperation. Lian worked to keep her safe. The princess learned to trust him. She also learned that humans, though considered simple by many species, had a kind of inner strength that made them capable of remarkable acts. One day they finally received a response to the weak signal Lian repaired. A rescue ship entered orbit, but could not land due to storms. Lian guided the princess to a mountaintop despite harsh winds. They built a fire big enough for the rescue ship to detect through the storm. When the ship arrived, the princess refused to leave Lian behind. The princess finished her story and smiled faintly at Lian. He looked down as if embarrassed by the praise. The queen gazed at both of them in silence. She spoke in a calm voice that Lian had saved her daughter's life. Because of that, he would be honored in the palace. Lian tried to refuse, saying he needed no reward. The queen insisted that gratitude must be shown. Lian finally nodded. Later, the princess rested in her room while Lian was shown through the palace. The alien architecture was shaped with curves and warm light. Lian had never seen such beauty. Servants studied him quietly. Some whispered their surprise that a human had played such an important role in saving the princess. Days passed. The princess grew stronger. The queen asked Lian to meet with the council. They questioned him about the dangers he faced and how he survived them. Lian answered honestly. The council members were impressed by his practical thinking. They were even more impressed by his loyalty to the princess. The queen began to invite Lian to private discussions. She learned about human worlds, their struggles, their hopes, and their dreams. She realized that humans were far more complex than the galaxy believed. She started to see their potential. She also saw how their resilience could become a strong force for unity. The princess spent much time with Lian. She enjoyed talking to him about simple things he experienced while traveling. He told her about the small food stalls on distant stations and the quiet lakes he had seen on moons. She told him about the responsibility of being born into a royal family and the weight it carried. They listened to each other with growing respect. One day the queen gathered the whole palace for an announcement. She declared that the stories of human limitations were incomplete. She shared how Lian had protected the princess without any special abilities. She explained that humans possessed a quality that many advanced species lost long ago. They had the instinct to survive through sheer will. The crowd listened in silence. The queen announced the creation of a new alliance program that would allow humans to train alongside the palace guard. It would be the first step toward a stronger bond between species. The crowd murmured with surprise. Some were unsure. Others nodded with support. The queen continued, saying that fear should never blind them from recognizing true value. The galaxy was wide and unpredictable. Allies mattered. After the speech, Lian felt overwhelmed. The princess placed a hand on his arm and thanked him again for everything he had done. She said her world was opening in ways she never expected. She believed this change was good for everyone. Over time, Lian trained with the royal guard. At first they doubted him. His reflexes were slower. He lacked many natural gifts. But he adapted. He learned new techniques. Whenever he made mistakes, he laughed and tried again. The guards slowly gained respect for him. They admired how he never complained. The princes often watched him during training. Sometimes she gave him advice. Sometimes she brought him water. The queen noticed the growing closeness between them, but said nothing. She wanted her daughter to decide her own path. A month later, a threat emerged near the border. A hostile fleet moved toward the region. The palace prepared for defense. The queen called the princess and Lion to the strategy hall. She needed people she could trust. During the meeting, the princess explained that she wanted to join the diplomatic team to negotiate with the approaching fleet. The queen hesitated, but agreed. Lion asked to join her. He promised to support her in any way needed. The queen looked into his eyes and saw determination again. She approved. The diplomatic ship traveled toward the border. Lion stayed close to the princess as they entered the main chamber of the fleet commander. The atmosphere was tense. The commander demanded proof of the princess's survival. She stepped forward and explained her story calmly. She spoke with confidence. Lian remained behind her with quiet alertness. The commander listened. He noticed Lian. He asked why a human stood beside her. The princess replied that Lian was the reason she was alive. She said that if humans could show such loyalty, then her people and his deserved peace and cooperation. The commander lowered his weapon and agreed to step back from the border. The negotiation was a success. When the princess and Lian returned home, the palace erupted in celebration. The queen hugged her daughter and then placed a hand on Lian's shoulder. She thanked him again. That night, the queen stood on her balcony.